family homestead. I thought I would take a little bit of time today and show you the canning part of my pantry and go over the things that I was able to can this past season. I did a little bit here at the start of the year, and I just wanted to show you what I did in my first year. This was my first year canning. I've always been afraid of it. The only thing that I had ever canned before was green beans. I had a friend of mine that pressure canned some green beans with me from the very first garden I had years ago. And it kind of made me nervous. There was a lot of rules, a lot of things to be careful of whenever you're pressure canning. And I just never did it again. But it's always been a skill that I have thought and believed to be very valuable and have always wanted to learn. So I've been watching on YouTube for over a year. I've been watching people can stuff left and right, and after seeing it so many times, I'm definitely a very visual learner, and watching other people do it has really sort of given me the confidence to say, hey, I really think I can do that. And I would encourage you, if it's something that you have always wanted to do and have thought there was value in, to give it a try. Watch videos, watch canning tutorial videos, some of the other YouTube channels that I watch. You've heard me talk about Acre Homestead. I watch Becky. I've learned so much from her. I watch Little Mountain Ranch. Chelsea is a fount of knowledge. She has a lot of experience. She grew up with canning in her family. Her mother is a canner as well, so she's got just a lifetime of experience you can learn from, and I've learned a great deal from her. Those are the two main ones that I watch in terms of canning videos and food preservation. So all I had this year was a water bath canner, and you can do a tremendous amount of things with just a water bath canner. I do hope to upgrade to a pressure canner this year. I want the electric pressure canner that takes the guesswork out of it. I'm still a little bit afraid of the other ones, the stovetop ones. Maybe I'll get there, but I do feel like I have confidence in, like, okay, if I had this electric countertop pressure canner, that pressure canning could be for me. And so I look to upgrade to that this year, so that I would really like to put some home canned beans on my shelf. I would love to have some meals, some prepared soups or meals that you pressure canned. Broth, for sure. I would love to put broth on my shelf. And if we have an abundance, maybe some canned vegetables, some of the lower acid vegetables that have to be pressure canned. So those are goals for this year, but I want to show you what I was able to achieve last year with just my water bath canner, because I did a ton of stuff. And the thing about canning, I will say, in my experience so far, I set out with some very small goals. In our garden, I was focused heavily on cucumbers and tomatoes because I wanted to make pickles. My husband eats pickles every single day. He gets jars of pickles that he takes to work. And pickles was something that was like, I want to can a year's supply of pickles. And tomato sauce. We use a lot of tomato sauce, and you're a little more limited with your water bath canner as to what kind of tomato sauce you can, but you can do it. And so that was another goal, and I planted a lot of tomato plants because I wanted tomato sauce. And those were my two main goals, and I wanted to do strawberry jam, because that's pretty much all I buy. I just buy strawberry jam. Every once in a while I'm at a farmer's market and I see some kind of, home canned, jam or something and I think, well, I'll pick that up, and I like to get that. But really what we eat is we eat strawberry jam. We're strawberry jam people. So I thought, well, I'd like to try and do that. Those were my three goals, three things that I wanted to do. And as you can see behind me, I definitely canned, and you can't see everything, but I have definitely canned a lot more than those three things, because a couple of things that happen once you start canning and you're successful and you do it, then you're like, oh, what else could I do? This is awesome. The other thing that happens, especially if you have a garden and you're canning, the garden will tell you what you're going to can. And so that was a lesson that I learned and certainly was not prepared for. The garden definitely told me what I was going to do. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind as we go through this. And the other thing, when I started this, I didn't grow up with home canned foods. So growing up, most of our foods were frozen and processed. We lived off the Schwansman, and that was what we consumed most of the time was frozen, prepared foods. And I've never had canned food in my life. I think the first time I ever had home canned green beans was when that friend helped me. I don't think I had them at any other time. So in doing this, I also was kind of like, ooh, am I gonna like this food? I didn't have any, so I really didn't know. I just believed in the value of knowing exactly what was in each and every one of these jars, where it came from, and that it was going to be good for us. But I really didn't know if we were gonna like the taste. And I will say, it's been incredible. We love it. It's so good. I never knew that home canned food could be as good as it was. Like, jam didn't surprise me because, like I said, if I go to a farmer's market or something, I like to buy those things. But I've never bought strawberry jam from a farmer's market. Anytime I would buy it, I would be buying like apple butter, pumpkin butter, maybe some blueberry jam or blackberry, something like that. I never got the everyday stuff that we actually eat, like strawberry jam. So when I made my own, that was the first time I ever had home canned strawberry jam, and it changed my life. It's totally different. It's so good. It is unreal. And when I started canning it, that was the first thing I did. And when I started canning it, I was like, I want to share this with everybody. I was giving away a lot until I realized, like, oh gosh, strawberry season is only so long, and I'm trying, the things that I am making would be great if we could have a year supply. Will it last? I don't know, but we're working towards that goal. And so then I started getting a little stingy, and I was like, oh, I gotta hang on to this. We've only got, 17 jars left. I want to make sure it lasts. But it was really, really good. And everything, there was one pickle recipe that we really did not care for because it was just too salty. And it was just way too much salt for us, and we really didn't like it. But other than that, everything that we have canned, has really been incredible. And I'm really looking forward to going over that and sharing that with you, and sharing with you kind of how I came across all of these different things. So I did keep a canning journal throughout the summer. So I've got that, so we can talk a little bit about like kind of how much I had and how many jars I made, because there are, we have eaten quite a bit of this already. So the first thing that I'll address and talk about is, yes, you do see like what appears to be empty jars on my shelf, but it's actually not. It's this water. I think I must have been on Instagram or something like that. Anyway, I saw some kind of, random clip from somebody that said, empty jars take up as much space as full jars. So they fill theirs up, with water, which made a ton of sense because I don't have a whole lot of storage space to just store my empty jars. So I actually found a lot of value in this. This is filtered water from our refrigerator. And I filled up the clean jars as they came out. I filled them up with filtered water. And in the event that we were ever to be without water or something like that, we have a supply of water that we can pull from to cook with, or whatever we happen to need it for. And when it comes time to fill these jars, then we'll just empty out the water. But it kind of gave purpose to these jars in storing them, and it just seemed to make the most sense for our purposes to do this. If I had a place where I could store, I kept all my boxes, and if I had a place where I could store all my empty jars, without them being in the way or getting broken or something, I would do that, but I just don't. So this made sense for our purposes. So the first thing that I canned was this strawberry jam, and that's right here. So when I first canned it, I canned pints. And typically, I think they say that like your home canned foods, like your jams and stuff, once they're open and they're in the refrigerator, they last for a couple of weeks. I was thinking that like I would do these pints, and this is about the size of the jar that we get at the grocery store. So I thought, well, I'll do this. And then it just, when I opened them and we were using them, it just kind of seemed like it was taking a while to get through this jar. And I certainly didn't want to open something and have it go bad, because then that defeats everything that you were working for. So I did more in the regular jelly jars, and we go through this pretty quickly. I did two different recipes. I used Sure Gel pectin, and I just followed the recipe that came with the pectin. And I did the regular and I did low sugar. And I do prefer the low sugar. It does have more of a strawberry flavor, where the regular recipe definitely is more on the sweeter side. The strawberries come through better in the low sugar, plus you have less sugar. And I like sugar just as much as the next person, but we could all use a little bit less, so why not? It tastes better and it has less sugar in it, so, you know, it must be better for you, right? But I do definitely prefer that, and any strawberry jam that I make from this point on, I will do the lower sugar version. You may have seen online people using Pomona's pectin. I have not tried to use that yet. I don't have any of that currently. That might be something that we tried down the road, but I'm very happy with the Sure Gel, and it was really easy to do. It was not hard. I did blitz my jam with my immersion blender because I prefer a smoother jam as opposed to one with like big kind of hunks of fruit in it. I really do not like soft fruits like that, like blueberries, and I don't like frozen strawberries. The texture, it bothers me. So I did blitz mine up, and it's a smooth strawberry jam, but it is absolutely incredible. So in keeping with that theme, I'll just go ahead with the jams and things that we did. This is a peach habanero jam, and I made this recipe I did make this recipe from a video that I saw on YouTube, because one of the things that we grew a whole lot of was hot peppers, and habaneros was one of them. And I had gotten some peaches, the first round of peaches that I had, I went ahead and I just sort of tucked some, I sliced them and peeled them and tucked some of them away in the freezer, because the video recipe that he uses, he just uses frozen peaches. So I kind of set some of them aside, so once the habaneros started coming in, we could try this. And I will tell you that this stuff is incredible. It's great on a fresh biscuit with some butter, but one of the things that we use it for most of the time is we mix this with barbecue sauce. And I would like to can my own barbecue sauce. I have some, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but typically I just, at the moment, have store-bought. And so we had mixed this with Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, and it's fantastic. It is so good. And also, which you probably might have seen in one of the first Pantry videos that we did, Pantry Challenge videos that we did, we also mixed their blueberry jam with Sweet Baby Ray's, and it was equally as delicious. So apparently, all Sweet Baby Ray's needs to get to that like pinnacle level of barbecue sauce is some home canned jam of some kind. But this peach habanero jam is really incredible, and I'll try to link his video to this, so if you want to use this recipe, it works out great. I love this stuff. I actually ended up doing 2 batches of this because it was so good. And then if you watched my video from last week, you will know that I failed at making apple scrap jelly. When I did applesauce, I was just kind of wanting, like, I've heard people use apple scraps for things like apple juice or stuff like that. So just, in trying to make the most of the product, I thought I'll do some apple scrap jelly, every now and then. Maybe I'll want some apple jelly on toast. I don't know. Jelly was more challenging than jam. This was the only jelly that I attempted. I had a hard time. I should have just went by the temperature. You have to reach a gelling point. But when I got to the temperature that it said in the recipe, I wasn't getting the results. When you do the gelling point, like test on a spoon, and you put it on a plate, and you kind of see, how much it gels and stuff. Like I was not getting good results, and so it just kind of you know, because it was new, wasn't really understanding what was happening or how to troubleshoot and stuff. And looking back, I probably should have just went by whatever the gelling point temperature was and just went with that and called it good. But we ended up with candy. When I opened this jar for the first time was at Thanksgiving, because what I really wanted this for was just to have as a glaze for pastries. We might put it on a random piece of toast, but really it was mostly going to be used for that. I usually buy like apricot preserves and kind of heat that up with a little bit of water as the glaze for pastries on things like the Danishes. But I thought this would be a great, you know, use for that. It's just a smooth jelly, warm it up, you know, with a little bit of water and make a glaze out of it. Still works for that purpose in the state that it's in, but it is definitely a soft candy and not not jelly at all. So the blueberry jam I decided to do on a whim. My son really likes blueberries, and so I thought, well, you know, I was at the farmer's market or something, they still had some, and I thought, well, why don't we go ahead and make up a batch of this, you know, and see. And I think we got like 9 half pints out of the batch that we did, and it's quite a lot. It's definitely more than a year's worth of blueberry jam for us, unless we just start living on those barbecue meatballs, because then this stuff will disappear really quickly. I did have one seal failure. I went to grab a jar one day, and I just happened to brush my finger over the top of it and realized that it was popping. And I do check all my seals and stuff whenever they come out of the canner. So for whatever reason, just while that one was on the shelf, the seal just failed. And so I pitched it, I scooped it all out of there, pitched the jam, and washed the jar, because better safe than sorry. You don't want to mess around with that. And that's all the jam and jelly that we did. The other thing that we did that we definitely did not do enough of, Cowboy candy. And there's several different recipes for this. I was watching canning videos and stuff for like a year, and everybody makes Cowboy candy. Everybody that does canning makes Cowboy candy. Never heard of this stuff before in my life. And when they described it, like, and the more I heard about it, the more I could like taste, like I could imagine like what it tasted like. And I wanted so bad to know if it tasted like I imagined it. And I can tell you that it absolutely does. Cowboy candy with a little bit of cream cheese on a cracker is one of the greatest snacks ever. It's fantastic. I do not like hot stuff. I'm really not a big fan of a lot of heat, but this I can handle. I do enjoy this, but I will say I did this twice. And the second time around, 2 things, I think. One, I think our jalapenos were a lot hotter than the first batch, because these were months in between. This was at least a month in between. And so I think the second round of jalapenos was definitely a little bit hotter. But also I think the ratio of jalapeno to the sweet brine that I did was different. I think I kind of packed the jars more full of jalapenos, and probably could have used a little bit less with a little bit more brine to sort of balance the sweet and the heat, because these jars are way hotter. This second batch of jars was definitely way hotter than the first batch that I did. The recipe that I followed came from Acre Homestead, I think it came off of their website, Scratch Pantry. I will link it in the description for you. This is very simple. It is literally just the kind of sugar syrup brine. There are other recipes that have different spices and things, but I just went with something really, really simple to start with. And I'm very happy with this and would probably do this again, though I wouldn't mind trying something that's a little bit more, has a little more flavor to it, and see what we think about that as well. But next year for sure, I will be doing up a lot of Cowboy candy, because I let people try this. I let our friends try it. They absolutely love it. And you can't get this on the grocery store shelf. So I will definitely make up extra just so that I can gift it, you know, or whatever, and give some to my friends, because they're in love with the stuff. So the other thing on the couple things that we have on this shelf, this is salsa. Almost everything that I did came from this book. I have this one, and then I also have this book. But most of the recipes that I did came from this one. And I believe this might be one of them. I can't remember. But anyway, this is the fresh vegetable salsa recipe in the bowl book is what we did. And we do not like cilantro. We're those people that cilantro tastes like soap. We don't like it. So I did not put cilantro in here. I put parsley. I had some parsley growing in the garden, and I used that just for a little bit of green. I had 19 jars in all. I can't remember how many batches that actually was, but I ended up with 19 jars. Some of them, I'm gonna look and see if I wrote that down. Some of them I did just with jalapenos, and some of them I did with a mix. I think it was a mix of my husband's hot peppers. The hot peppers that we grew were, we did Scotch bonnets. We had 6 Scotch bonnet plants. That's his favorite. And we had 3 orange habaneros. We had 3 red habaneros. We had 3 sugar rush peach plants. And we had this, I think we had 3 of these. This is called an I'm going to say this wrong, charapita. We had these, and we also had ghost peppers. We had 3 ghost pepper plants. And I think there was some jalapeno plants in there, but they didn't do very well. And so I just did 1 batch spicy and 1 batch mild. So in the batches that we did, I ended up with 19 jars. However, my husband says, I have not tasted the hot salsa. I had marked these down here as spicy salsa. He claims that the mild salsa that I made with jalapenos is hotter than this spicy salsa. So, we only have 4 more jars left of the mild salsa, and so I guess we'll see, because we're gonna have to start opening up the spicy when that's all gone. Having home canned salt, we like chips and salsa when we go to a Mexican restaurant and stuff, but it's not something that we typically snack on a lot at home. But this changed that. It is definitely a more common snack now that we have this wonderful and delicious home canned salsa on our shelf. It just changed the way that we eat, and a lot of these things have. The other thing that's on here is cranberry sauce. Now, I made this at the beginning of January. I had found after Thanksgiving some ocean spray cranberries that were on sale at the grocery store. It was like a 2-pound bag. And it was $2.99. They were really cheap. It was like $3. I think I bought like 3 of them. I think I had 3 bags in all, and I went through them and I picked out all the ones that weren't any good, and I washed them real good, and then tried to dry them as best I could, and then I put them in the freezer. And so I made the cranberry sauce from frozen cranberries. I have not opened any of these jars yet. Cranberry sauce, we have 10 jars. I got 10 jars out of that. It was 2 batches, because there was like 2 pounds per batch. By the time I had gone through all of the bags that I had of cranberries, there were a lot to be discarded. I mean, it was late after Thanksgiving. It was in December sometime, so some of them, weren't good and got pitched. But I had 4 pounds. It was like 2 pounds to a batch, and so we ended up with 10 jars, which is definitely a year supply of cranberry sauce for us. But there's a couple of recipes that I make where I use an entire can of whole berry cranberry sauce, and this is just a little bit more than that can. I actually think I have one on the shelf. Yeah. So this is, a pint, so this is going to be 16 ounces, and this can is 14 ounces. And so the recipes that I make, I can use this whole jar. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But the thing I make most often is something that we call cranberry chicken. It is a recipe that uses whole berry cranberry sauce, French onion soup mix, and Catalina dressing. and you mix all that together and you cook the chicken in it, and we serve it over egg noodles. And it's one of my favorite things to eat. I do want to look up making my own onion soup mix. I know there's things like that online that I can find as opposed to buying store-bought. So that's something that I do want to look into. Just, we're trying to gradually work out processed food, you know, anywhere that we can, and convert whatever we can to organic. This is our goal. So, you know, step by step we're getting there. But if, you know, in the meantime, I want to use one of these jars and I need to get some, you know, Lipton onion soup mix, that's what I'll do. But I haven't opened these yet. I did taste it when I made it, and it is definitely tart. Those were some tart berries, even though there's a whole lot of sugar in here. So it'll be interesting just to see, you know, how that changes as compared to, you know, store canned stuff. So that was a project. That was my first canning project of 2024. We'll talk about peaches. I just got some peaches from a local, I think they came in from South Carolina. They were not grown here in Tennessee. The farm stand that I got it from, I'm pretty sure they had brought them in from South Carolina. I think it might have been in Georgia. Peaches were very expensive this year because there was some kind of frost issue, like a late frost or something that damaged a lot of the peach crop. So they were very expensive. I got a basket, which was probably, I want to say it was probably like half a bushel, because I think they were like about 22-ish pounds or something in those baskets, and they were $45 a basket. So they were pretty pricey, but I will say I would do it again. And next year, if I'm financially able, I will buy more, because these home canned peaches, like, they're almost gone. The first batch that I did, I went ahead and I did honey syrup, and I thought I would try it. They're not bad. They're not terrible. I'm not crazy, you know, about the flavor. I will. It's not what I expect when I think I want some peaches. This is a medium syrup. I will probably do an extra light syrup next time. This was all new to me, so I didn't really know where to start in terms of syrup for canning fruit. And so medium sounded like a good place to start, but it probably is definitely sweeter than it needs to be. I could probably get away with a light or even an extra light syrup for these peaches. But this is my daughter's favorite thing. She has been eating canned peaches like crazy. She eats them all the time. We are down to, there are 2 jars. There's 2 of these on the shelf. It's January. I did this in July. It's a long time between now and July. We are going to have a long space of time without home canned peaches. So we will definitely try to do a lot more next year, because nobody's really going for the honey syrup ones. I had 28 jars by the time all was said and done. I think I bought that basket twice. And I had 28 jars in all, including the honey syrup ones. And so that's definitely not enough for our family for a year, barely enough for our family for a half a year. So we're really going to have to double our efforts on the canned peaches next year. Skipped one. I did do applesauce. The recipe that I did for the applesauce, I know for sure came from this book. And I do have, if you can see, I'm trying not to get too close, but there is some oxidation. I'm not sure how to say that. It is oxidizing a little bit at the very top. And I did have to Google that, because I was like, I went to go get my jar and it was a different color than it had been when I first, canned it. This was after a few weeks this started happening. And so I Googled, like, is oxidation, normal in home canned applesauce? The recipe did not call for any lemon juice. The only thing that is in here is apples. There's no sugar. And I double checked. I went back and I double checked, because I was afraid when I saw that maybe I had done something wrong and that I didn't follow the recipe properly. But the recipe, even when I double checked, it does not call for any kind of lemon juice. So what I do when I open this, and it's probably perfectly fine and perfectly safe, but it just kind of makes me feel better, I just kind of scoop off the brown part at the top. It's not a whole lot, and it's really not gotten worse since it first turned. So But just in case you ever try to can your own applesauce and this happens to you, it is apparently very normal, according to the Google. So, but this is, I love this. It's very sweet. I used Gala apples for this. I just did a quick Google search, what's the best apples for, you know, home canned applesauce, and that was one of the ones that they recommended. I got a good deal, same farm stand, and I got a bushel or something, and so we did applesauce, and that was all. I think that was all I used those apples for, but I had a bushel of Gala apples, and I got 18 jars, or 18 pints of applesauce. And like I said, there's nothing in there but apples, and I just cooked them. I blitzed them up with my immersion blender. I like it more smooth as opposed to like a chunky applesauce, and I really enjoy this. When I first made it, my daughter was eating it like crazy, and then she just kind of got wore out on it. But it's really good. I really like it, and I will make more. I do want to try to do just regular canned sliced apples next year as well, and see how that goes. The pears, these are pears. I did pears in light syrup to begin with, and it was definitely sweeter than it needed to be when we tried it. And so the next batch that I did extra light syrup. So the pears that we actually got for free. It was quite a blessing. I had asked at the farmer's market, this farmer that I had been buying a few things from, I knew we were coming into pear season, but I hadn't seen any, and I didn't really know where I could find some. And I asked him, I said, do you know anybody that sells pears, maybe has a pick your own kind of thing? Is this something we can get here in East Tennessee? Because I don't know. And he actually had pear trees. He has a couple pear trees on his property. So he asked me how much I needed, and I was like, I don't know, like half a bushel maybe, you know. And so he said he was going to bring it for me. Our farmer's market is on Wednesday and Saturday. I was there on Wednesday, and he said that he would bring it for me on Saturday, and that it would be $10. So great, let's do that. And I had bought a couple things from him that day. And when I came back on Saturday, and he had forgotten about my pears. So he said that he gave us permission to go on his property and pick our own. And so we picked, we just filled up a box. So I guess it was about a bushel of pears. Same thing, I ended up with about 28 jars of pears. But it took me a while. This was in August, so school had started. I had gone back to work. It took me a while to kind of get them all done. And when I did this first batch that's in light syrup, they weren't quite as ripe as the next batch was. And so the texture's not bad. The texture is good, but it's definitely a firmer texture on these than it is on the next batch. And it's the next batch that when I eat it, it's a much more pleasant texture. And then it's in an extra light syrup too, and they're just as sweet, you know, because they were much more ripe. So if I ever do pears again, I'll have that and know that in mind. Just kind of wait till they just get a little more soft before canning them. It's definitely worth the wait. It makes a big difference. So pickles, we have tons and tons and tons of pickles. I had cucumbers coming out from I think I had 12 pickling cucumber plants, and they went wild. It definitely was the year of cucumbers. We absolutely have 2 years worth of pickles on our shelf, which is great because pickles take up a lot of real estate, or cucumbers take up a lot of real estate in your garden. So if I only have to can those every other year, you know, that's fantastic. That gives space to do something else in a large number. So the pickles that we made, let's see. This was the first batch that I did, and this was just basic dill pickles. But this is the very salty recipe. This is way too salty for us. Honestly, I don't know if these will get used. I'll probably, you know, I might chop them up and put them in like a potato salad or something like that. But just to crunch on a pickle, we're not going to go for these because they're just way too salty for us. And I only have 3 quarts of these that I did that way. The very first ones that I did, if I can find them, I don't know where they've taken off to at this point. I guess we'll find them. Anyway, so we did the low salt dill pickle spears, and these are really good. My husband, he takes these all the time. We did these two ways. We did just the regular dills, and then we did what we call spicy spears. And we put in his hot peppers, his some of his scotch bonnets, and his habaneros. And we put those in there. So if he's in the mood for spicy pickles, he has those. And if he wants regular pickles, he's got lots of those. I may have written down how many jars I did. I don't know. I did have a grand total, like in 2023 anyway, of, it was like, I did like 299 jars is when I counted and all was said and done. I had about 14. Oh no, that's a different one. Anyway, there's a lot of them, and we're definitely going to have plenty. The ones that he really likes, we did low salt sweet pickles from the same book. We did low salt sweet pickles, and we did we did the same thing. We did this recipe, and then we added some of his hot peppers, and so he has what we call spicy sweets. And he likes those too. Those worked out pretty good. I do not care for these. I've never been much of a sweet pickle person. I'm a dill pickle person all the way. And most of these pickles I don't even really eat just a snack on a pickle. I make a fermented refrigerator pickle that I really like. It's very garlicky, and it's too garlicky for my husband. It's not really what he goes for, but I absolutely love them, and I make those for myself, and that's what I snack on. But he has these, and then I had a lot of these. I had like 14 jars of these. These are hamburger dills, and they're pretty salty as well, but a couple of them on your cheeseburger, you don't really notice the salt. If I were just to try and snack on these, they would definitely be too salty, like just for snacks. But for what they are, and to put them on hamburgers and sandwiches and things like that, it's not that bad at all. These are really good. And because we had such a abundance of cucumbers, again, the garden will tell you what you're going to can, and it definitely when it comes to relish was what I had no intentions whatsoever of canning relish. I don't really use relish very much at all, just in my cooking, so I wasn't planning on that. I had so many cucumbers, I had to do something with them. So we did a regular cucumber relish, and then we did a spicy cucumber relish. And all we did for the spicy cucumber relish was the bell peppers that it called for. We just replaced with spicy peppers, same quantity, just a different pepper. So he has, because he eats a lot of tuna, makes tuna salad and stuff at work, and so he'll mix this in with his tuna and his mayonnaise. But I will say with this makes a fantastic tartar sauce. So I take mayonnaise, I mix a little bit of this, and I mix a little bit of whole grain mustard and some salt and pepper, and it is the best tartar sauce I have ever made. That stuff is so good. And I'm glad to have this on my shelf for that reason. I've also mixed in potato salads and things like that, so it is good to have. I'm glad to have it. It's just going to take me a long time. That one recipe made 12 jars of this. So this is definitely a couple of years supply of cucumber relish for us, for sure. And I've gifted some of this too, because I know we're not even going to go through 12 jars in 2 years. So we have that. And that is all of the cucumber pickles. So I told you about these little peppers that we did. Well, they're teeny tiny. This is our jar of what we call fish bait. And because that's what it looks like, but it's actually these peppers. They're so small. My husband really liked these. He said they were about, I don't want to get this wrong, but I feel like it's 10 times hotter than a jalapeno. Like it's a very, very small bite. It's just a pop in your mouth, and it's this explosion of heat, and it doesn't last very long, but it hits you like really hard, real fast. And but we had a whole bunch of them that came in. I didn't know what to do with them, and so I just put them in a pickle brine and stuff, and just pickled this small jar, and it literally looks like a jar of fish bait. So, and then we also had an abundance of ghost peppers. And so we have made these pretty jars of diff. This is all ghost pepper, and some of those little ahi peppers are in there as well. He has one of these jars open in the refrigerator, and he'll pull them out and he'll add them to his food sometimes, but it is slow going in terms of getting through this jar. So we have quite a large supply. We've got, how many of these? 1, 2, 5. I've got 5 on my shelf and 1 in the refrigerator. So we'll have these for quite a while. Again, the garden, this is one of those, the garden's going to tell you what you're going to do. I had, case in point, let's see. These jars are beautiful. I love these jars. We did several of these. I looked up a recipe just for pickled hot peppers. And it's just a very basic pickling brine that you do. And I'll try to link the recipe as well if I can find it. In this jar are red habaneros, orange habaneros, Scotch bonnets, and possibly some sugar rush peach peppers might be in there. Just depends on what was coming out of the garden at the time. We had such an abundance of hot peppers and we had to figure out something to do with them. In hindsight, we probably should have froze some of them, like chopped them up and froze them. We might do that next year because we're planning on growing a whole bunch of them. But we have several jars of these pickled hot peppers, and he likes these. These worked out good. We did a jar that is only sugar rush peach, and that's going over well. We're kind of using that as a replacement for like little cans of green chilies and stuff, because it's about the same kind of heat level. And so we add that into some meats, like a meat mixture for burritos and stuff like that. That's working out really good. And then we got several jars of this. And this was another garden tells you what to do. Excuse me. And this is hot pepper relish. So, and this is great. This is he loves this. My husband absolutely loves this. It's great to smear on a sandwich, a hoagie, stuff like that. I've mixed it in with chicken salad. It's also, great for crackers and cream cheese. It's got some sugar in it, so it's got a little bit of sweet to go with it. There's like bell peppers and onions, and then the hot peppers. There's mustard seed in here. I'll link this recipe as well. But this is one of the, this is a blue ribbon recipe for us this year in terms of the things that we canned and what we like the best. This was a big, surprise. Hey, let's try this, and then boom, knocked it out of the park. And then what's going to be really fun is that we're doing different hot peppers this year. We'll probably do the same thing, just with a different blend of peppers, and just see how that flavor profile changes with the different peppers. It's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to that in the coming season. So that is all the pickles, all the pickled peppers. The other things that we did, apple pie filling was something I did on a whim. That farmer's farm stand that I went to still had really good deals on apples, and I thought, let's try that. I will tell you, this was my biggest challenge. This was a very, very big challenge. I lost a lot of jars to siphoning. There was just a lot of siphoning that happened. I followed the recipe, I followed the headspace, I did, all of that, but I just had a lot of siphoning issues. And when I was looking up and I started Googling and I started looking for YouTube videos. Why is this happening? What can I do? How do I troubleshoot? A lot of the things that I saw that were recommended was to change the headspace, was to actually just give it more headspace than it calls for. Because what I learned in this process was that apples expand quite a bit when they're canned. When you open these jars and the air comes out, like, it shrinks. What's in here shrinks. Like, apples will fill up with air, and you need a lot of room for that expansion. And so when I fixed that, then I started, having successful jars. But I lost a lot of jars and ended up having to freeze the pie filling and stuff because I just was not comfortable, you know, just didn't believe that my seal was any good because there's, you know, sugar syrup and gel and all that. But this is really good. And what I was really impressed. So I don't make apple pie a lot. We're not huge pie people. But it is nice to have on the shelf in a pinch if you want to make an apple crumble or you need a quick dessert or something. We have used this as fillings. Again, you saw we make the homemade danishes. And so this works out great as a Danish filling, pastry filling. And I've got other things that I want to try. We also had it one time just with a scoop of ice cream, and some of this was really good. It's just, I liked it a lot, but I do not like commercially canned pie filling. I hate it. I've always hated it. Ever since I was in culinary school, like it just is so unnatural. That gel is just gross. And so I really wasn't sure if I would like this at all because of that. But this is actually really good. I really enjoy this a whole lot. And it is, I mean, it's leagues better than anything that you can get in the grocery store. So I would definitely recommend that. I guess this would be the last thing. Just do a quick check here. Oh no, not the last thing. Hold on. So this is my tomato sauce, and you saw me use this with spaghetti. It's just very basic tomato sauce. I had about 100 pounds of homegrown tomatoes and that I made sauce out of. And I had, I don't know if I wrote it down. I think I had like 16 jars, 16 quarts of tomatoes. I did not write it down. I should have, but I did not. So there's 12 here. I had about 17. I think it was about 17 quarts that I got. But I also did, and there's 9 of them, I also did some half pint jars, because there's some recipes that I make sometimes that call for like an 8-ounce jar of tomato sauce. And so that's what I wanted to have on hand. So I wouldn't have to open one of these and figure out something to do with the other, 3 cups in here. And this works out good. I don't use it all the time, but it's nice to have on the shelf in a smaller amount for when I do need it. And like I said, you saw me use this. I really love this. It's a game changer. Homemade tomato sauce is just fantastic. It's very, very basic. It's a little on the thin side. Not a problem for me at all. I love it. And so the last thing that I canned is something called liquid gold barbecue sauce. And this was a recipe given to me by a friend. To make this, you have to use the brine, excuse me, the leftover brine from Cowboy candy. When you make Cowboy candy, sometimes you have some of that good juice still in your pot that you don't end up putting in jars, and you just kind of save that until you get a pint of it, and then you make this barbecue sauce recipe. And this barbecue sauce is very, very good. It's no joke, liquid gold. That's one of the reasons why I want to try a recipe for Cowboy candy that has a little bit more seasoning and stuff to it, because my friend had gifted me a jar of this liquid gold that she had canned herself, and that's what I used as the base to can this barbecue sauce. So I do want to try a recipe that has a little bit more flavor in terms of the Cowboy candy brine. But this stuff is really, really good. Now, I only got like 6 of these out of it, and so that's definitely not enough barbecue sauce for most. We'll have to get some from the store at some point. This stuff is really good. This is the barbecue sauce I used on the barbecue chicken flatbread pizza that I made. It was so good. It was fantastic. So I definitely want more of this in my life. So that is everything that we canned in 2023 and a tiny little bit of 2024. And again, this is all water bath canned. So I filled my pantry with so many things just with a water bath canner. And there's so much more that you can do with a water bath canner as well. This is certainly not the limitation of it. But I really look forward to upgrading to pressure canning, and I hope you'll join us and continue to follow along with McFadden Family Homestead as we learn a bunch of new things, pressure canning, more gardening. We're trying a lot of different things in our garden this year. We'll do a seed video and show you what our plans are and what we hope to do for the coming season. Is definitely getting close to the time when we need to start sowing seeds. So we'll try to get that up after Pantry Challenge is over. and start talking to you about what our plans are. But we really appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and all of our videos and following along with our homesteading journey of how we kind of convert our lives to, you know, just be as self-sufficient, you know, as we can, and really start producing a lot of things ourselves as best we can, or sourcing it locally and organically. It's definitely making a difference in our lives. It's making a difference in how we feel. And I really just think that, you know, we're healthier for it. It's the best way to go. So we're just taking baby steps in that journey, and we thank you so much for following along.